Wow. Um, I, First of all, I did not notice this. That video has been circulating online for a while. Shia LaBeouf there had a ponytail, and then he shaved it off, and then 2020 happened. So I'm not saying it's a coincidence, but I feel like shaving the ponytail may have had something to do with all of this going on. Did anyone else remember Shia LaBeouf from the glory days of Even Stevens on Disney Channel? Some of you are shaking your head. Awesome. Well, hey, my name is Chris. I am so thankful to be here. I'm a pastor of Family Ministries, oftentimes, most of the time, all the time, down at the Sterling Heights campus. So I'm excited to be here with you in Imlay City. And if you're joining us online right now, live too, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We're excited that you are able to join us, or you're watching this whenever, catching this later. I just want to take a moment too to celebrate last week's baptism. Especially this campus, I mean, just showing up like crazy. I love to see what God was doing there. So I just want to give a shout out to all of you watching what God is doing. It is so cool. So thankful for Pastor Tom, Nathan, Randy, Kyle, so many people. I mean, all the people behind the scenes, everyone playing a role in what God is doing here. I love it. So I just wanted to say all that too. As we jump into the series, Talk is Cheap. Now, we all kind of have heard the saying before. We know the idea that talk is cheap. And the idea is looking at our faith and seeing if it's backed up by anything. And so what an important time right now during this year, during everything that is going on, to kind of really take a look at what real faith looks like and kind of knowing the difference between real faith and fake faith. And so we're in the book of James, which I'm just warning you, it packs a punch. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking through quite a bit of things that are going to kind of maybe hit really close to home and hopefully be very encouraging at the end of the day too for our hearts as we go forward with this journey of life and following Jesus and what that all looks like. But one of the ways that we can determine whether things are real or fake oftentimes is because we know what the real thing looks like. We know what it feels like. We know what it tastes like. You know, we just know what real versus fake tends to be because we know what the real thing's like. For instance, my son, he's 4 years old. He has a very restrictive diet. And so he cannot have, one of the things he can't have is dairy. And so we got fake butter and we got fake cheese. I have grown to kind of tolerate the butter. The butter's not bad. The cheese is from a different planet. And I will tell you, two of my favorite foods are butter and cheese. If those are options, I'm choosing those as my favorite foods. And so we didn't have a whole lot, or we were making food at my parents' house. My sister was there, and she had never tasted any of this before, and we had to make something that he could eat. And so we made something with the butter and with the cheese. And when my sister bit into it, I thought she was going to throw up at the table. Like, she was just like, what is this? And we're like, it's kind of cheese. It's not cheese. It's fake cheese. But she was like, this is the worst thing I've ever tasted. I'm like, that's a stretch. Like, tone it back a little bit. He's sitting right next to you. Like, he can hear you. And he doesn't know the difference, so he loves it. So it's great. But the idea that she just tasted it and she's like, that's not real. Like, that's just fake right out of the gate. We know what it's like to determine whether things are real or fake. And we can kind of, I don't want to get too far into this, but we can kind of look at others around us. And not that you want to have a judgmental eye, but you can go, I don't know about that person. They seem to come off a little fake towards me, or maybe that person was more sincere. And so we're going to look at this when it comes in relation to our faith. Does our faith, is it sincere? Is it real? Or are there things that maybe we're going through the motions with? Jesus talks about when he comes back, it says, well, the Son of Man, when he comes to the earth, will he find anyone of faith? Looking around, when he comes back, will he see us as faithful people? Will he find anyone with faith? And then Paul actually says to examine ourselves, to take a moment to see whether we're in the faith, test ourselves. This is a good kind of self-evaluation thing that we can do, kind of daily, even check-ins, weekly check-ins on how am I doing with this? And that's kind of where we're going to go with this message. But how do I know what real faith is? How do I know that I have real faith? How do I know what this is all about? Well, we're going to look at that, and again, over the next few weeks, kind of unpackage this idea. But real faith, when it comes down to it, real faith is more than the words that we say. We're going to kind of define a couple of things that real faith is. It's more than the words that we say. And James in chapter 2 says this, dear brothers and sisters, what's the use of saying you have faith if you don't prove it by your actions? That kind of faith can't save anyone. So we can say things all day long, but if we're not living it, if we're going to talk about it and not be about it, it's a whole different world. It's easy to say things, isn't it? It's really easy to say things. I mean, the amount of home projects I have said I'm going to do during this time, and the amount of, some of you are laughing. Maybe that's real for you too. there's now trim on the floor in part of the room. but I like the whole basement's going to be finished by the time we're done with this. I mean, give or take a few, it's not going to be done. And so there's things that we say, right, we're going to do, and it's so easy to say things. Do you remember, this might be sensitive, but do you remember going to the gym, if you ever went to the gym? Remember public places? And so going to the gym years ago, there's this guy, there's one in every gym, so you'll find him. But there was someone who would say, whatever someone was doing, they're like, oh, I cranked out 30 pull-ups the other day. I was like, oh, can you do them right now? Today's not the day. Okay, all right. Oh, I bench this. I can bench this. Really? Are you going to work on that? Nah, like today's not my day. And it's like, doesn't really seem like you have a day here. Like there's just people that say things all the time. And we're really good about this too. I mean, if we're being honest as Christians, saying something and not really fully being able to back it up. I remember growing up playing hockey, and usually the guys who talked the most amount of trash were the ones who weren't doing a whole lot on the ice. Like they had to compensate, and so they were gonna get under someone's skin or something like that. It was the guys who were really good that could talk. I mean, you watch out for them. But most of the time, they just play and they're good, and you see that. But the guys who had to talk the most amount of trash were the ones who couldn't necessarily back it up. And I think the same kind of goes, not saying, if we were talking trash as Christians or anything like that, but you know what I mean. It's really easy to say something. It's much harder to actually live it out. Actually, in the book of Proverbs, it says, where there's many words, sin is abound. And so oftentimes we kind of catch ourselves saying so many things, saying, oh, I do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And chances are there's opportunities there for us to trip up in our words. And so I'm not saying don't say anything, but I am saying there's a difference. Real faith is more than just saying the right words. Real faith is more than the words that I say. And this one comes right from Jesus in Matthew chapter 7, where it says this, taking it a step further, not everyone who says that I am their Lord is going to enter the kingdom of heaven. The only people who enter heaven are those who do what my Father in heaven wants them to do. Real faith lived out. I mean, real faith really leads us to action. It compels us to act and to live. It doesn't compel us just to say the right things. Real faith is also more than the emotions that we feel. More than just the emotions that we feel. I will say, just being in this room for the music and everything, really, really powerful. But real faith is more than just maybe the emotions that we feel. I love this as James chapter 2 continues. We're going to be kind of working through these verses here. Suppose you see a brother or sister who needs food or clothing, and you say to them, I wish you well. I feel for you, and I hope you stay warm and eat well. Now, before we go on anything, it sounds like who would actually like see someone like that and just say like, man, I hope you do well. Like it just seems so, but it's really easy for us to do this and kind of feel for them, but then you do nothing to meet their needs. What good does your sympathy do? It's worth nothing. In the same way, faith, if it's not accompanied by action, doesn't work. It's dead and useless. James is really getting on our case this morning. I don't know if you've been through any of these verses before, but this entire book is really all about living this out. And he's saying, what good is it if you feel bad, but you don't move? You're not motivated to do something about it. If you just feel, which I will say, I think we're all better off if we can find a place where we're compassionate like Jesus was compassionate. If we can find a place to understand each other a little bit more. If we can find a place to have empathy for the people around us. I think this needs to be practiced, and I think it's kind of a lost art that we've kind of have stepped away from. But the idea that just feeling compassion or just feeling to do something, how many times have we had the emotion or the good intent to do something and not follow through? I mean, I'll raise my hand 4 times over. Like we get caught up in emotion and we go, man, I want someone to do something about that, but probably not me. I want someone else to go do this. I feel bad, but I'd rather there's probably someone else more qualified than me. There's probably someone else, it'll get figured out, hopefully. I mean, I have a good heart about it, but James would say faith is more than just the emotions that we feel, more than just those emotions. It's putting them, again, into action. Faith, real faith, is more than just the ideas that I debate as well. We're going to get into this. More than the ideas that I debate. Now, someone may argue, isn't it possible that some people have good faith while other people do good deeds? But I say, No, I can't see your real faith if you don't do any real deeds to show me. In contrast, I can show you my faith by the good things I do. We get to a point where we almost get argumentative, saying, well, I can do this over here in my box, and other people will take care of this thing. And we get to a point where just the ideas that we argue or debate, that kind of thing, it usually comes from a defensive mode where we're trying to justify, and hear me out, we're trying to justify our inaction. We're trying to say, oh no, but like it's okay because like I've done something before, or other people are taking care of this, and like I do, again, emotion. I feel bad, and I feel like I can do this, or someone else can do it, but it's usually a chance to justify our inaction. It's usually a chance where we get argumentative, and usually when we go on the defense really quick to defend ourselves, it's from a place of insecurity, where we really are like, oh, am I doing this? And so instead of hearing someone out or listening or being willing to maybe take a step back and approach us from a different angle, we start getting defensive, and we start debating, and we start arguing, and we make arguments saying, no, I'm good. Like you're the one who's got a problem, and we do all this and back and forth. And I think instead of thinking about just or focusing on just these moments in time where we want to be right or we want to justify ourselves, start aiming towards building something over time. Instead of just these moments in time, think about moments over time. Am I building something that is meaningful with my life? Am I taking my actions? Because then I don't have this root of insecurity going, oh man, am I doing okay? Like what's going on? And someone pointed, and we get really defensive. Start thinking about over time, what does this look like? Am I building towards something meaningful? Because that speaks way more than just debating in a moment and having a temporary feeling of winning an argument or having a conversation like that. Another thing real faith is it's more than the truths that I claim to believe. More than the truths that I claim to believe. Now you say, well, I believe there is a God. And I say, good for you. But even the demons believe that and are afraid. It's foolish to not realize that faith in God is useless if you don't do what he wants you to do. Again, there's kind of a repetitive theme here. Like, if you don't do this, like, what kind of good is it? What use is it? Do we believe the truths that we claim? In 1 John chapter 4, and we just sang a song about it, the idea that God is love, and that perfect love, God's love, can cast out fear. Are we really filling up and letting God fill us up and having our faith kind of reset our fear, kind of minimize our fear? Are we people that are safe when they are fearful, when others are fearful? Are they coming to us at a point where we're like, well, we know God. Like, we know him. He is alive inside of us, and he's driving out my fear. Let me help you understand this in your context. Let me help you be let me be a safe person for you to help you navigate this. Real faith is more than the truths, I believe. Now, again, my son has dietary issues and that kind of stuff, and we're figuring all that out, but we can manage that, right? There's a little anxiety that comes to it, but he's going to be okay. There's a difference between moments like that, where we can be kind of calm, and moments just, being transparent. My uncle has had multiple transfusions. He's in the hospital right now. We're not sure which way it's going to go. In moments like that, when life hits, what is real faith? Is real faith going to run, or is real faith going to say, okay, I know who God is in this. I know who he is in this. I know he's doing something in this. Okay, all right, can I trust him? Are these just truths that I claimed I believe, or is this on the inside changing my heart, changing my perspective, changing the way I'm seeing this situation right now? Is this compelling me to live out something beyond myself? Is it something that we're doing? And I will say this. The other day, again, we were at my parents' house, and we have a 1-year-old, and my parents have this bigger dog, and the dog started barking really loudly, and no one was really around our 1-year-old, and so she started crying, like, lip quivering, that kind of like really scared moment. And so, the dog was barking, saw another dog or a squirrel or something in the backyard. And so we grabbed our 1-year-old, held her, let her know this dog is big, it barks, but she's not going to hurt you. Everything's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. And she calmed down and everything. About 30-ish minutes later, she's buckled in her chair in the table, the kitchen table is right by the back sliding door. Dog sees a dog in the back. I don't know what it was, but dog starts barking hysterically again, just like louder than before. And immediately our 1-year-old, I was right by the table, and my mom was right by the table. And immediately our 1-year-old, instead of just panic suddenly, she looked over at us right away. She looked over at us, and I had started calmly walking over to pull the dog away from, and I will say calmly, sometimes it's not calm, but this one was calm, thankfully. And so I was going calmly, and then my mom was just like, "Oh, Lily, stop barking," just very calmly. And so our 1-year-old looked at us to see how we were going to react. And then when we were calm and the dog stopped barking, she immediately she was all good again. She was all good again. And so if you have kids, if you have grown kids, if you have friends, right now, oftentimes when it comes to our faith, people are kind of wondering, how are we going to respond in these moments? Are these just kind of nice, feel-good things that we talk about or share on social media? Or is this this person's heart just different? Is there something about them that is a calming? Are they a safe person? Is God really driving out fear in their world? Not that things aren't scary, but is God really at work in their life? People are kind of looking in going, okay, I wonder what this looks like to live out. Real faith is more than just truths we claim that we believe. Real faith, when it comes down to it, it's what I do. It's the application to the information that I know. It's living it out. James continues, just as a body without a spirit doesn't breathe and is dead, so faith that doesn't do anything is just as dead. It's again pretty harsh. Again, these are James' words, not mine. So don't, if you're upset, then take it on James, I guess. I don't know, so just as a body without a spirit doesn't breathe and is dead, so faith that doesn't do anything is just as dead. So again, am I someone daily that has God kind of driving out this fear? Am I noticeably different because of the way God has changed my heart, changed my life? The way I'm living it out, the way I'm pursuing him, the way I'm dependent on him, is that changing things around me? My son, yesterday, we were just playing out in the yard, and he's got these little toy dinosaurs, and he's been looking for worms in the yard, because dinosaurs can, play with the worms. I don't know, but I played with them. And so we had fun. And so we were playing, and he found this worm. It was a really big worm, and it was as stale as can be. Just dead, deader than dead, just a dead worm. And so he's playing with it, and he's got his dinosaurs are taking turns eating it, and whatever. So I wonder how this looks, by the way, when people drive by, and we're just in the front yard, and we just got little toy dinosaurs eating dead worms. And so, but he's looking around, and he's voicing some of the dinosaurs. He has a lot of fun with it, and he looks down at the worm, and he takes one of the dinosaurs. He goes, "Well, he's not really doing anything right now," like poking the worm. I was like, well, yeah, it's the rigor mortis worm. Like, this thing has been dead for weeks, it looks like. This is gross. And so it's not going to do anything. And so one of the other dinosaurs was like, maybe it'll move around. Maybe it'll go hide again. Like, it's dead. Like, it's not moving. I don't know what can get this through to you, but it's done. It's not doing anything. And James would compare that. He didn't say rigor mortis worm. I wish he did, but he didn't. And so, but he would compare, if we're not in action with our faith, if we're not living this out, then he would say, it's dead. It's just as dead. And I love how this is kind of worded in the Message version. Verse 22, isn't it obvious that faith and works are yoked partners, that faith expresses itself in works, and that the works are works of faith? And so we have this kind of tandem together of our faith compelling us to do works. Faith and works, they go together in tandem. Just quick poll. Have you ever seen a tandem bike? Has anyone ridden a tandem bike? You raise, yes, fantastic. Okay, side note, now that we got a few. I have been trying to convince one of my friends to get a tandem bike with me, and he will not budge. If you believe that. I did my research, Facebook Marketplace. I'm looking for tandem bikes. And I said, can you just imagine it? Like, we'll just, two men in their 30s just riding tandem bike around the neighborhood. Like, why would we not do this? And he goes, I can't believe you're seriously considering this. And I said, I can't believe you're seriously not considering this. Why would we not? But you understand, like, riding in tandem, you pedal at the same time, right? Or maybe think of a rowboat. When you're two people rowing, you got to row at the same time. It works together. Faith and works kind of go together. It's hand in hand. Because we have this faith, we are compelled into action because of what God has done for us. And that's what I want to talk about here. It is by grace you have been saved through faith for a life of good works, which God has already prepared for us to do. We've been saved through faith for a life of good works. A lot of times, and I remember this growing up, a lot of times in church, we often talk about our action and faith and all this stuff and living it out and doing all this. And we almost make it to a point where we're going, oh, I have to do more. I got to do better. Because I'm trying to earn God's love. And if I do this, then God will love me more. And if I do this, and because I'm not doing this, God's upset with me, and God's, and we kind of make this just this guilt thing. And we need to understand the Bible in its context, and Jesus in his context. We have been saved by faith. It is through faith in Jesus because of what he has already done. Our works do not make God love us anymore. We're compelled into action out of a place of trust and gratitude. Trust and gratitude, because we trust him with our lives, and we are so thankful for what he's done. That is what compels real faith into action, not guilt, not going, I am a terrible person, I need to figure all this out, because behavior modification doesn't get us too far. Because maybe we fix things on our own for a minute, and we go, all right, I feel like a good church person. I feel like a good Christian because I did this on my own, and then a week later something else hits, and then we go back right to square one, and there's not really a difference. That's us trying to do it. That's us trying to earn something. That's us trying to prove ourselves to God, who would say, you don't have to. You don't have to. This book, by the way, Romans chapter 3, will tell us that the law just simply makes us aware of the sin that we have. And so when we look to the things that we should be doing, God would say, I know you, I love you, I know you're going to fall short. I know that already. That's why Jesus did what he did. That's why God put on flesh to pay our punishment for it. So it's out of a place of trust and thankfulness that we are compelled into action. And don't make it about guilt. Hear me on that. Don't make this about, I need to do better. I need to do better. I'm sure we all have areas of our life that we're like, yeah, I can grow here. For sure, but this does not come out of a place of guilt. It comes out of a place of thankfulness for what God has done. And it comes out of a place of God alive inside of us. He promises us the Holy Spirit alive inside of us. And when we lean on him and have him lead our lives, Galatians tells us it's him who produces the fruit in our lives. And so again, not just these moments in time, but think about moments over time of how am I letting God lead me? How am I building something meaningful with my life with God's leading? And so back to the question, how do I know I have real faith? There's two really big things. I show real faith by obeying Jesus. That's how I show my real faith. Jesus replied, all who love me will do what I say, and anyone who doesn't love me will not obey me. And again, earlier on in this or after this, it says that the law just simply points out our sin. So this is not taking the Bible and going, okay, there's lots of commands in here. Let me put them up on the wall, and I'm going to be perfect today. I'm going to follow all of them, be a good kid, be a good parent. I don't know why I say kid. Be a good person. I'm going to follow all of these things. I'm going to do all of those. I'm going to check the box. And this really just points out that we can't achieve that. And so what does he mean by obey me? It means I'm in pursuit. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to say I need to be in a spot where I'm dependent on him. Because I think the more and more we go along with our journey with God, we discover that there's more and more things that we can grow in. And on this side of heaven, we will never reach perfection. So there's always areas that he's working on, that he's bringing us along, inviting us into. And so it's about being authentic, saying, I know I'm going to fall short. This is oftentimes why we have inaction. It's because we're afraid that we're going to slip up, or we're afraid of failure. We're afraid that we can't live it out as perfectly as maybe God, as Jesus lived it out. I think inaction is doing us more of a disservice than trying and fumbling a little bit, allowing God to work in us and bring us along. And so we show real faith by obeying Jesus and being in a position where we're dependent on him, following him. And I show real faith by loving others. The two things that are at the heart of this, obeying Jesus and loving others. The only thing that really counts is faith that shows itself through love. Children, you should show love for others by truly helping them and not merely by talking about it. And over, Jesus talks about, they'll know you're my disciples. You'll know who you are by the way you love one another. And so kind of the defining moments of real faith are, am I obeying where I am today? Forget about everything else that's gone on. Forget about the times where maybe you fell short. Think about today, in this moment, am I obeying God's next step for me? Am I obeying that leading in my heart right now? Am I obeying the next step? And am I loving other people well, the way Jesus showed love? Am I loving others well? These are the marks of true faith. Am I obeying where I am right now in my next step? Again, you can think 10 years from now, you can think 10 years in the past, but think in this moment, am I taking a step towards building something meaningful in my world? Am I taking a next step towards following God's leading, and am I loving others well? Now, I don't want to use any trigger words like the new normal and that kind of stuff that people are getting upset about, but I will say this, and coming from a millennial perspective, so just take that with a grain of salt as well. But that's a cool podcast name, by the way, that I may start. I may have stumbled onto something in this moment right now, the Millennial Perspective podcast, coming soon. It's not, I'm kidding. But what I am seeing with a lot of my friends, with a lot of young families, with a lot of people that are looking around in the midst of a shutdown and everything else that has gone on here, the question used to come up like, okay, when we're struggling, we're trying to figure things out, if people are kind of curious about faith, the question kind of went from, who do I know that goes to church? Or maybe what church do they go to? And for a while, physically, the answer was no one's going to a physical location of a church. And we've talked for thousands of years. The church is you and I. The church is not a building. But the shift has kind of happened a little bit to where people are starting to ask the question is not who do I know that's a church person who goes to a church? The question is starting to shift into who do I know that knows Jesus? Who do I know that has faith in God? And that might sound like a subtle shift, but it's a really big one in the circles that I have right now. It's a really big shift because it's not like hey, where am I going for my family? Can I make church kind of a thing on a Sunday? And for some of us, we can. But what people are doing right now is trying to navigate this. And they're asking real serious questions. And they're looking around, who do I know that knows Jesus? Who do I know that is handling the situation different than everyone else? Who do I know that is more loving than anyone else that I know? Who do I know that's a safe person? They wouldn't maybe use the words that God is driving out fear in their life and they're filling up with God's love, but maybe they notice who's a safe person? Who seems to know Jesus? And that subtle shift that's happening is a really monumental one, I think, for all of us as we would say we are the church, because I think it's positioned us to be so outrageously loving towards other people and so radically changing the landscape of who Jesus is to the lives of our family and friends and people around us. And so I encourage you, what does real faith look like? Questions to think about. Am I obeying Jesus in this moment? Am I obeying Jesus with my next step? And am I loving others well? Questions to think about, challenges to take on this week as we consider this isn't about guilt. It's about God's grace and his love for us that compels us into action. I'd love to pray for you right now. Jesus, we thank you so much for your love. We thank you so much for everyone in this room. Thank you so much for everyone watching online, watching at a later time. God, we thank you so much for everyone who's played a role in making this happen. But God, we thank you first and foremost, again, for what you did on the cross, for what you have done to take the punishment for all of our mistakes, all of our sins, to give us life, to give us purpose, to give us meaning and hope in our world, in our hearts. So God, I pray that we would choose to obey you with our next step, that we would choose to love others well, and all of this would be compelled from who you are, from what you've done for us. And I pray for anyone in the room today who would say, you know what, today is a day where I want to yield my life to Jesus. I want to live in a way where I know that I have purpose in my next step. I want to live in a way where I know that God has made me right in his eyes through Jesus. And so you can repeat after me quietly in your heart, something along these lines that would say, Jesus, I know I'm not perfect. I know I sin and fall short of that perfection. But I believe that you lived a perfect life, that you took my punishment, my mistakes, and you paid for them on the cross, that you died and through your blood covered all my mistakes in the past, my mistakes in the future. God, I believe that you rose Jesus from the dead. You are more powerful than anyone or anything. You have the authority to say, I am forgiven. I am made right in your eyes. So God, I ask you, forgive me today. Help me to obey you with my next step. Help me to follow you all of my days. Help me to know my future, my hope is secure because of who you are and what you've done for me. God, I pray that I would have real faith, that I would love others well, and that I would live, love, and look like you every day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Aren't you glad Chris came to be with us today? Huh? I'm so excited about our Talk is Cheap series, and I sat over here and just was really moved by many of the things that were said because as a team here at Heritage Church, we've been talking about that threefold moral interlock that God designed us, and there's that love that we have. And it ought to be reciprocating, meaning we receive his love for us, and then we're able to give that love back to him. But as he said, man, can you imagine if we were moved to the point of being so indwelt by the Holy Spirit that really what Jesus was upon the face of the earth was just loving people right where they were. And you need to go back and invite your friends over to re-listen to that message. Powerful, powerful message. Thank you, Brother Chris, for that. And I want to encourage you, as they said in that video here a little while ago, what we do here at Heritage Church cannot be done without you. And the way that you have given in the midst of all of this has been incredible. So as you exit here today, I want to thank you again for teaming up with us to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Help them to learn how to what? Receive God's love for them and then have that love back to him. And that what that does is that provokes us, that moves us, enables us to depend upon him and live in obedience by reciprocating, you see, by just initiating that love into other people's lives. So continue to give. Back there, the kiosk outside in the lobby area is the kiosk. So thank you so very much. If you missed last week, you missed a great, great time. Over 40 people in Heritage Church was baptized, and we had a wonderful, wonderful time. I'm going to ask that you remain seated. The ushers are going to come forward and dismiss you in rows, and we'll see you outside. So God bless you. We'll see you next week.
You say that you love me, don't say that you love me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. You say that you want me, don't say that you want me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. I still act like an orphan, I guess, and my heart breaks to confess that even while you hold me as I cry on the floor, I still don't know how to be yours. You say that you love me, don't say that you love me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. You say that you want me, don't say that you want me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. 'Cause I still act like an orphan, I guess, and my heart breaks to confess that even while you hold me as I cry on the floor, I still don't know how to be So love me or hate